Hey, it's Endymion, and today we gotta talk more about Grand Theft Auto 6 and how a lot of things I reported on the game are starting to come out and reinforce just how Rockstar is nothing like they used to be. Beyond this, there's Sony news as well, and based on my sources, there might be a very big Elden Ring sized reason why their stocks are soaring the way that they are right now. Also, Francesco Solbach helped me yet again with the info provided, so give him a follow on Twitter if you don't mind. He does good work, and Francesco and I will also be live streaming the Game Awards on my channel as well, so if you want to see that live with us, come hang out. Firstly, GTA 6, we all know this game is coming, and when it does, it's going to make more money than God. GTA sells no matter what, pretty much the biggest gaming IP in the world, and it eclipses everything around it. GTA was always home to the most crude and funny depictions of every culture as well. In a lot of ways, I compare GTA as a franchise to be very similar to something like South Park. Just a no-holds bare-knuckle way of looking at everyone. Nobody was safe from the criticisms or parodies by GTA or something like South Park. And this is what makes these franchises so beloved. While both of them were usually rated M for mature, their hands were rated E for everyone when it comes to catching strays. So it pains me to see GTA going out of its way to apparently become more inclusive when what the world needs right now is the most base GTA to ever exist in the series yet to make a statement. So, what the hell has happened now? Well, it all starts with Jason Schreier of Bloomberg. Someone who really doesn't like me and has claimed people like me are not good for journalism, even though unlike him at least, I'm actually telling you things without washing away the dirt around it like he does. Thankfully, other sites caught wind of his story, so here's comicbook.com with their article referencing Bloomberg's titled, Rockstar Games reportedly asked GTA 6 writers to be less crude towards transgender people and other minorities. As I live and breathe, it is really hilarious when I get vindicated like this. In case you didn't watch my previous GTA video, I exposed how the entirety of Rockstar is riddled with DEI or diversity, equity, and inclusion. They also force DEI training programs specifically on white developers almost exclusively. There's a course every white dev at Rockstar must take and pass called Unconscious Bias. That is mandated by Rockstar onto these white employees specifically, effectively to beat the so-called internal racism that has been socially implemented into them. So it's really no surprise that now, after I release all of that information in my previous video, that Bloomberg now comes out and confirms that, oh, by the way, GTA can't punch down anymore because it's problematic. This is like South Park being told that they can't make jokes about Kenny dying or calling Kyle a Jew. This politically correct nonsense, it ruins everything that it touches. It's a big reason why I barely go to the movies anymore or watch the majority of TV that comes out. I'm just really sick of this PC we gotta sand off all the edges so nobody gets hurt mentality. The Bloomberg article stated, Rockstar is asking its writers to be less crude towards transgender people and other minorities. The common targets of throwaway gags in previous versions. Oh, so this is just PR talk for everyone who isn't white will not be targeted. Great. I fully expect white people to almost exclusively be presented as fumbling fools for the entirety of GTA 6. I expect lots of incompetent white guys being weak while everyone who isn't white is suddenly amazing and full of wonder because something unconscious bias. Thankfully, Francesco has access to Bloomberg, so he sent some of Jason's article. Most of it is your typical stuff. He opens the article stating that GTA 5 has sold 205 million units, made over $9 billion for Take-Two, and expectations are of course very high for the game. Jason also says in his report, Rockstar, a subsidiary of Take-Two Interactive Software Incorporating, has revealed little about GTA 6, other than a fall 2025 release date. Since the announcement of a teaser trailer for the game in late 2023, shares of the parent company have risen more than 30%. The trailer, which has topped 200 million views on YouTube, shows the game is set in a fictional version of Miami. Bloomberg News has reported that GTA 6 will star a pair of playable characters, a man and woman, inspired by the criminal duo Bonnie and Clyde, and that Rockstar is asking its writers to be less crude towards transgender people and other minorities, the common targets of throwaway gags in previous versions. There it is. Damn, hate to see it confirmed like that. What a waste, man. Get ready for Grand Theft Auto Game Journalist Approved Edition in the near future. I doubt this will go over well with the player base at all. This next part maybe raise an eyebrow though. Development of GTA 6 began a decade ago, but only started in earnest after Rockstar's last major release, 2018's Red Dead Redemption 2. That project pushed the development team to the brink, requiring late hours and creating a culture of tension and aggression. Seeking to improve its workplace culture, the company ousted several executives and promised a more reasonable schedule. But a massive hack in 2022 complicated things, leading Rockstar to clamp down on remote work and direct employees to return to the office 5 days a week, rankling staff. There's that part there. The company ousted several executives to fix its culture. That doesn't sit right with me at all. They are absolutely referring to Dan Houser, Laszlo Jones, and Michael Unsworth in this part of the article. And this is what I am trying to warn people about, that this is bad news for Rockstar. The entire departure of Dan Houser specifically has always been weird, because the guy founded Rockstar with his brother. And every single game that Rockstar has made was written by Dan Houser. So if you like characters like CJ, Big Smoke, Michael, Franklin, John Marston, or Arthur Morgan, yeah, you got Dan Houser to thank for these characters and their stories. The guy clearly knows what he's doing when it comes to game development, as he has helped create the biggest IP in the world, and it's not even close. So having Jason Schreier of all people, who works at Bloomberg, a company that openly advocates for DEI and bathes their morals in wokeness, to confidently state that Dan Houser did not leave of his own reasons but was forced out, is Jason Schreier unironically confirming what me and Francesco were talking about before. The DEI training, the unconscious bias certificates, now the whole GTA will not punch down or up or whatever to trans people or minorities. It's all symptoms of the realization that Rockstar as a whole is completely and utterly infested with the same DEI that runs through Bloomberg's veins as well. I actually can't believe that Jason Schreier would just admit this so openly, because he doesn't seem to realize that he just confirmed what we have found to be 100% true already. Rockstar is becoming softer, less crude, and erasing its so-called frat boy culture, and these are not just random things that have just happened out of nowhere. This has all come to pass for one simple reason. Rockstar has officially been taken over by radical woke freaks, and there's no denying this anymore. My anticipation for GTA 6 was always going to be met with skepticism, because any game that gets announced or released these days, I don't really have 100% faith in unless it's from software, I guess. And I wouldn't be surprised if the main female character in GTA 6, whose name is Lucia or Lucia, I don't know, whatever, can't be put into a bathing suit either in-game or something. Because we all know that the main male character can likely be put into anything that you want him to wear, but Lucia, I have big doubts considering how this new leadership has hijacked the entire studio the way that they have. I mean, the writing was on the wall. In 2022, Jason also had an article from Bloomberg about GTA titled, "Rockstar Games cleans up its frat boy culture and Grand Theft Auto 2. With a new tone at Rockstar Games and a change in creative direction, Grand Theft Auto 6 will probably feel very different from its predecessor." With the added context of what we now know, this 2022 headline, it reads more like a tombstone than an article. A new tone and change in direction? Yeah, none of this sounds good, dude. Like, come on, listen to this. In the summer of 2020, after a police officer killed George Floyd, Rockstar Games quietly shelved a mode of play it had planned to release for its Grand Theft Auto online game. Called Cops and Crooks, the mode was a twist on the children's game where players organized into teams of good guys and bad guys, but seemed especially tone-deaf during the global reckoning over police violence. Senior executives at the company, concerned about how the narrative might be interpreted during a time of heightened skepticism and mistrust of American police, put it aside. They still haven't made plans to bring it back, according to people familiar with development. Am I taking crazy pills here? So you're telling me the same game that lets players go buck wild and just mass murder anyone and everything they see? With machine guns, rocket launchers, grenades, a baseball bat, running people over, the whole 9 yards. Got rid of a mode that allows players to take the side of law enforcement, and this is bad when the default characters you play in GTA, or really any of them, are all by and large career criminals who have all done terrible things. You see what I'm saying? They keep confirming the quiet parts out loud. The whole George Floyd thing, that did change a lot of stuff in the culture of America. I reported a few months back, by the way, that it was also around this time that Ubisoft forced Yasuke into Assassin's Creed Shadows when George Floyd died to get virtue signaling points and support from Black Lives Matter. Maybe GTA can't write parodies anymore of the real world, because the actual space in which we live is already a parody itself. Because the old Rockstar would release any and all content, and if people push back, they would say it's a video game, get over it, and that would be the end of it, and then that's all that would happen. You're never playing these savior types in GTA, guys. Come on, it's literally called Grand Theft Auto. It's named after an actual charge that can be placed against a suspect in real life. This push to de-weaponize and ruin GTA has been done by nobody but activists for their own personal reasons. Although in Jason's new article, it would be nice of him to at least comment that his story about Rockstar being nicer to trans people is definitely tied to the whole unconscious bias courses that me and Francesco found. But he won't, of course, because he refuses to believe anyone outside of his circle that can do the same job that he does. And by legitimizing someone like me and others, it gives us power in his eyes. This is why old legacy media is dying. They're purposely rejecting where things are going while keeping one foot in the ideological grave no matter the cost to themselves. I genuinely can't believe that GTA's new higher-ups thought it was a good idea to confirm that they are going to de-weaponize GTA's political commentary, which is easily one of GTA's biggest strengths. Unreal, dude. Actual clown show over there. And admitting that they forced out Dan Houser, man. These activists are getting bolder, dude. I don't think anyone believes that GTA 6 will underperform. It won't. It's going to sell like hotcakes no matter what. But my other big worry is that the DEI agenda-filled weirdos will use GTA 6 performing exceptionally well as some sort of rallying cry that wokeness can now lead to massive success. But they'll fail to mention that it's a victory that came at the cost of the people who actually made the skeleton of the game and the writing work that are being the ones that are forced out and having yet another franchise get hijacked the same way that Dragon Age was. The battle of GTA 6 is just starting, fellas, but that's where we're at right now. I just can't believe that Jason Schreier would confirm that Rockstar activists forced out the creators. Good lord, dude. Now, let's move on to Sony. So this is really interesting. So between December 9th and December 10th, Sony's stock share prices suddenly just blew up to astronomical levels. Like here, look at this. Here's Sony's stock prices ranging from the early 2000s to obviously right now in 2024. As you can see, it's very easy to tell that Sony's stock has reached the heights of its PS2 golden era. What the hell is happening, you may be wondering? Well, in case you forgot, Sony has been very vocal that they want to acquire Kadokawa, which owns studios like From Software and Spike Chunsoft, as well as a whole load of anime. My guess is while yes, Sony obviously would want people like From Software Studio, the big get for them in this is actually the anime stuff. Because Sony already owns Funimation and Crunchyroll, meaning effectively Sony would have a gorilla grip on the anime distribution across the world. A very large infinite moneymaker, if you will, so it makes sense. Now here, let's look at Kadokawa's share prices right now. Suspiciously, as well, closing in near December 9th, the numbers are looking really good for the company. And as you can see, from November 15th till right about now, their prices went Super Saiyan, obviously, because of Sony buying Kadokawa, or wanting to anyway. And as you can see here, Sony's stock raises around the same time Kadokawa's did as well. This leads to a few things. Numero uno, Sony got a boost in software sales of some kind recently, but the likelihood is not as common, especially since stuff like Concord got cooked. And arguably, Sony had no real first-party releases this fall at all. Black Ops 6 is Microsoft after all. The second theory is a profitable mega deal of some kind, sort of like Kadokawa being bought outright by Sony internally, with formal announcements not getting released just yet. This would of course cause the stock to explode, as it would mean that Sony now owns From Software, which we can all agree that is a huge get. It could also be exclusivity deals or rights with other games, as one of my sources told me Sony allegedly released the PS5 Pro this year to get the system out to as many people as possible, because allegedly, what I was told the reason is because Grand Theft Auto 6 will have exclusive perks tied to the PS5 Pro console over the base model. Remember, fellas, that GTA 6 will not be releasing on PC first when it comes out. It'll be console only. PC will come eventually, yes, but when it releases, yeah, it'll basically be PS5 and Xbox. And since Xbox has notoriously been at fault for underperforming with games, mostly because of the culture designed by Microsoft with Game Pass, by de-incentivizing players to buy games but instead wait, not to mention the PS5 is like outselling the Xbox Series by like 3 to 1? Is it 4 or 5? I don't know, it's a really high margin, but anyways. And then of course you have the Series S, which kind of just holds games back for being barely even next gen. I would bet my gooch that the PS5 becomes the de facto release console for GTA 6 without a shadow of a doubt. And then if you promote GTA 6 with some sort of pro-enabled features like even higher resolutions, but it's still 60 FPS or something, who knows? Yeah, that is going to make it a system seller. So this second option could be why the stock went Kaioken times 20 so quickly. But there's another possible third option, strong exclusives coming to PlayStation. If the Kadokawa deal gets finalized, Sony could very well make future From Software titles console exclusive for a time at least, which would, yes, drive up sales even more for the console and their market share. As AutomatonMedia.com says in their article titled Kadokawa's employees are reportedly optimistic about a Sony buyout because they're itching for a change in leadership. Automaton spoke to economic analyst Takahiro Suzuki about the Kadokawa-Sony deal and whether the benefits outweigh the negatives, and Takahiro stated, Kadokawa will lose its independence and management will become stricter. If they want to keep developing their business as freely as they have until now, the acquisition would be a bad choice. They'd have to be prepared for publications that don't lead to IP creation being put under scrutiny. Then, a veteran dev who works at Kadokawa also said this anonymously. The people around me are thrilled at the prospect of an acquisition by Sony. That's because there's a certain number of employees who are dissatisfied with the Natsuno administration, which didn't even bother to hold a press conference after people's personal information was leaked in the cyber attack. They expect that if Sony were to acquire the company, they would get rid of the president first. So it seems, at least to some degree, there are people at Kadokawa who would love new leadership because the current regime that is reigning over From Software and other stuff is negligent when it comes to their employees' safety and privacy. That's a valid criticism. I think we can all agree on that. And I mean, here's another article that got recently posted too, saying that Kadokawa is all in on getting acquired by Sony and really wants it to happen. So, if this does go through, Sony will become the Japanese powerhouse. Honestly, after that, all they would need to do is acquire, if even possible, maybe Nintendo somehow. Then if that were to happen, we would be witnessing the greatest gaming conglomerate to ever exist in the history of gaming. But let's not get too grand here just about yet, but it does seem that an acquisition of Kadokawa is not if, but when at this point. I should probably also tell you guys some other things I've been told by a source that I think is really important. Firstly, Sony is allegedly gearing up for a Days Gone remaster. You may say why, but there's a reason. From what I'm told, Sony is going to gauge the response to the Days Gone remaster for a potential sequel. Since the original game did sell pretty damn well for a new IP that wasn't nearly as expensive as, say, The Last of Us Part 2. But here's the more interesting part for me, which is I was told that Sony Japan is winning the war for Sony's soul right now. In case you forgot, I reported how I had sources tell me that Sony was in an ideological war from Sony Japan versus Sony America, and from what I'm told, Sony Japan is winning in spades right now. FYI, Sony Japan is against wokeness pretty vehemently and wants to just make great games, and then acquire stuff that really matters to them. The Kadokawa thing is apparently their idea. Sony Japan also allegedly was responsible for Concord's cancellation and outvoted Sony America in wasting resources to bring that game back. So all in all, Sony Japan is making big moves behind the scenes and wants to course correct the ship, so to speak, away from the ideology-driven content that has ruined games like Last of Us 2 or Spider-Man 2, both of which sold less than their predecessors for good reason. But the end goal here, pretty much, is Sony wants to own Kadokawa and From Software as well. But what they really want is the anime stuff that they have. They may be pushing exclusive features at release on PS5 Pro to bank on GTA 6's hype, and Sony Japan really wants to fix things and never allow another Concord to happen. And I figured I should probably add some more context as to what exactly Kadokawa has to offer outside of From Software to Sony. Let's circle back to that anime discussion. So Kadokawa was founded after World War II. The company has easily become one of the most profitable anime manga places within Japan, and that's saying something. Kadokawa also has a big handle on the isekai genre specifically, which if you don't know what that is, isekai is stories where someone from the modern world gets transported to some fantastical land. You probably know stuff like Sword Art Online. Yeah, Kadokawa owns that franchise amongst others. Anyway, while gamers see this as one big play to get From Software, the true reason is because if Sony owns Kadokawa, that it's for anime pretty much and manga too exclusively. Sony will become an unrivaled superpower in the Japanese content distribution space. profiting off of basically every single anime or manga pretty much in existence to some extent, every subscription, every manga book bought. Sony would benefit across all of this in an insanely lucrative way. Would it be a monopoly on anime? Absolutely 100%. This actually wasn't in the cards until just a few years ago though, since Kadokawa's co-founder, whose name is Tsuguhiki Kadokawa, was very much against the company getting bought by anybody and wanted to stay independent. Of course, in 2022, through boardroom politics and all the other things that usually happens within companies when it comes to corporate greed and such, Kadokawa was forced out of the company, the co-founder I mean, and this led to the company being controlled by people who were very much interested in selling off the company for huge profits, except according to the Screen Rant article that I'm reciting here, they say that Sony had no interest in buying the entirety of Kadokawa. They only wanted the anime and manga, not the games, which that's weird, right? Here's what the article says. According to Bloomberg, Sugihiko Kadokawa was forced to resign as company head in 2022. Following his departure, Kadokawa's new leadership revisited the idea of selling the company or at least entertaining offers from potential buyers. Chief among Kadokawa's suitors was Sony, which its leadership appeared inclined to sell to except for one major issue. Sony had no desire to acquire the entire company. Instead, it was only interested in Kadokawa's manga and anime assets. Talks between the two companies are ongoing, though a key issue remains Kadokawa's preference to sell as a whole. So you heard it, that Sony doesn't really want the games that they have, which is very weird, but hey, it is what it is. They clearly know that if they own Kadokawa and get a hold of their companies, one of which is called Anime News Network, Sony effectively would have a constant profit cash flow through all the manga and anime across the entire world. Although probably what'll happen is Kadokawa will try to convince Sony buying their games is worth it, and then if that were to happen, Sony would just become so much stronger in the end in every way. We know that From Software games sell, they have critical pedigree, not to mention all the other things they get access to, like the isekais and the entire Sword Art Online franchise to use to their own liking. But that's what I got on Sony and Kadokawa right now, and now if anybody ever asks you they just want to buy it From Software, you can now gotcha them and roundhouse kick them in the neck with the facts. As for GTA 6 and Jason Schreier confirming what me and Francesco reported on with our joint video in that Park Plays article, that we planned and combined as a two-way assault within 30 minutes of each other posting, well, it's nice to know that Schreier is clearly aware of what we're doing, even if he won't give us credit for it, but Access Media, gonna access media, I guess. But that's what I got for you right now. What do you think about all of this? Is GTA 6 cooked by the forced ideological angle? Is Sony wrong to want Kadokawa? And what about the surging of shares happening at both companies? Suspiciously at the same time, almost as if it's planned. Let me know. Thanks for being here, guys. Again, I'll be streaming the Game Awards tomorrow live with Francesco if you want to come chill and watch the show with us. Thank you as always for watching. Subscribe. Thanks to my supporters, and I'll see you guys soon.